Hey there, I'm Rebecca from the Knitting Unicorn podcast, and welcome to episode 16. I am coming to you from southern New Hampshire, and it is very cold out. It was snowing this morning, but it stopped. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been with me for a little while, I'm glad you're back. I don't have a ton of stuff to show today. I have, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen my post about being a big fat liar. I am a big fat liar. I had all these plans for 2019. I had plans for last year too. And I actually got most of them done. But I found that every waking moment was dedicated to knitting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely meant that I was maybe ignoring other things that I shouldn't ignore. I was sitting a lot, not getting out and moving and being active. And more importantly is I kept putting a lot of pressure on myself to finish all these things and meet these arbitrary goals that I set for myself. Like it was some sort of competition, or I had to prove to everyone that I belonged in this community, or I don't even know what. But it caused me so much stress. And then I knew that going into this year, and I made my goals less aggressive. But I found over the last few weeks that I didn't want to stick to those goals. Like I picked a make 9, I've already traded some things out, and I forget who it was. Who was I watching? I was watching some podcast the other day, and they were talking about how their make 9 is inspiration or a suggestion, and I liked that. So that's how I'm looking at my make 9 now. It's the inspiration for things I want to get done, and suggestion of things I want to get done. So to that end, I also said that I wasn't going to cast on anything new until I finished a handful of my whips. That did not happen. I have not finished any of my whips. And I'm trying not to care. I'm trying really hard not to feel bad and not to feel guilty over it, because that's just stupid. It's just knitting. I should knit what I feel like knitting at the time that I'm knitting it. I should knit what I feel like knitting when I feel like knitting it, right? I mean, isn't that the point? And maybe, I can't believe I'm going to say this, maybe I'm becoming more of a process knitter than a project knitter. I'm definitely a project knitter. Like I want that item now. I want to work on it and finish it as quickly as I can because I want to wear it. And I still feel that way about my whips. But at the same time, it's like if I don't feel like working on 3 inches of stockinette on my Tegna, which is like an XXL because I'm using teeny tiny, almost lace weight yarn, then I don't have to. If I feel like casting on another sock, why not? You know, it's like, so then, you know, you find yourself going too far the other direction where you're just casting on everything, you're never finishing anything. There's so much being thrown at you on social media, watching all the podcasts, seeing all the hand-dyed yarns. You want to cast on everything and buy everything, and then it consumes you in that direction. So I'm not there yet, but I don't want to go that way. So this is my revised goals and resolutions for 2019. That would be, like many others, they've picked a word, and I like that. I've always done that too. I don't really make resolutions other than, you know, maybe losing some weight, but whatever. So my word this year is balance. I want to find balance in my life between things I have to do and things I want to do, family, work, knitting, making time for myself to be healthy and active. I've So, take 2 of this podcast. I just recorded for 40 minutes, and only the first 5 minutes recorded. So, I'm going to start losing my mind. I now finally understand Amy Florence and all of her nuttiness, because this is recording number 3. The first one, I somehow turned off the record. The second one, when I finished recording and went to import it into my movie editing software, everything crashed and I lost it. Damn you, iMovie. That's why I need a nice camera. So this is take 3 of an entire podcast. If I seem short or apathetic or rushing through everything, it's because I've done this 3 times. I'm so sorry. Okay. So I know that my first 5 minutes of ranting about balance, you've just watched. And yeah, so my plan for this year is to bring more balance into my life and not go crazy buying yarn, not completely starve myself of yarn. I'll talk a little bit more when I show you some of my whips about it, but one of my goals was to knit everything from stash. I don't know if I can knit everything this year from stash, but I certainly have enough stash to knit 90% of the stuff I want to knit. So, I'm going to move on to knitting stuff because I don't even remember what I talked about last time or the time before. So, my first FO is a cowl. One of the things I had wanted to make was the Land of Sweets cowl by Helen Stewart. And that was her 2017 Advent Mystery Knit Along. And I put that on my list, and then I got the Advent calendar from Happy Little Yarn. Hey, Amy. And I really loved it. And I was going to use that. And then when I was ready to cast something on at the beginning of the month, I was feeling a lot of burnout from the holidays, from work, from knitting in general. I think I just said I put a lot of pressure on myself last year. I set a lot of goals, and it was too much. And I was just, I don't want to say I lost my knitting mojo, because I wanted to knit. I just didn't want to think. I wasn't inspired by anything. Well, I was inspired, but I wasn't gung-ho excited to knit anything. So I wanted to just sit in front of the TV and relax and just do something plain. So instead of casting on the Land of Sweets, I just cast on a cowl that was inspired by a cowl. What was it called? I can't remember what she called it, but she made a cowl that's a faded cowl with all of her Harry Potter colors, and she made a very subtle transition, and I was inspired to do something similar. So I cast on my own. It's much shorter. I only used 9 of the mini skeins, so I definitely have enough combined with other mini skeins I already own to do the Land of Sweets if I choose to. But yeah, I just made this really simple faded cowl. Actually, I want it to go this way. And I did like 8 rows of one color, and then I faded in for another 8 rows, switching colors every other row. Then 8 rows of the new color, fade, new color, fade, but just 8 chunks of 8 rows. Some of them blended incredibly seamlessly, like this yellow and gray. Like, it's just, that one's just incredible. I can't believe how well that faded. Others, like this one, are quite obvious. The blue and green, not so much. So, but overall, I'm happy with it. I think it's really cute. It's so soft. I love this yarn. I didn't want to make a huge cowl. I do have some other knitting plans this year for like bigger cowl things. I want to do the Earthshine cowl by Hilary Smith Callis, I think. And I have a really nice tweed that I got from Fibershare last year that I'm going to do with that. And then another one of the Hilary Smith Callis. I think I'm getting her name right. I'll put it below. Moonshine. I have a gorgeous sparkle yarn for that. So I have plans. I wanted this to be a smaller cowl that I could wear like under a jacket when I go to walk the dog. You know, a neck warmer. Just a neck warmer. So it's a tiny bit snug down here, but I noticed in my second attempt of recording this that if I pull it out, it is actually quite nice. And I still have to weave in the ends. I might fudge that somehow, because I don't want to. And I'm still going to block it a little bit, just so it relaxes a little. And I think it will be a little more comfortable once I block it. But yeah. It's really nice. It's really warm. And then when I have like a jacket on and it's like, you know, tucked in there, and then no wind's getting through there. I can put it as up high as I want. I'm in southern New Hampshire, as I mentioned, and it can get quite cold. Today was like 11 degrees. The other day it was 4 Fahrenheit. That's like -9 Celsius. No, it's more than that. No, I think it's like -9 Celsius. I don't know. I can't do conversions, but you know what I mean. So it gets really cold, especially in like January, February. February's frigid. So this will be nice. Actually, right now I don't even want to take it off. I'm so cozy. So I'm going to leave it on. So yeah, that's my only current FO. I really love it. Oh my god. And these yarns that Amy dyed. That's so pretty. She did such an amazing job. And then I think I showed it on my last episode because it was after Christmas. But the advent calendar, it was the 24 mini skeins, and then there was a full skein of yarn that was called Aurora Borealis, and it was like blues and blacks, and oh my god, it's so gorgeous. And I think it's going to pool, but like in a micro stripe if I did a sock, which would be stunning. So I think that's going to be a sock. Maybe it'll be another cowl. I don't know. She does amazing yarn. So check out Happy Little Yarn. She's on Etsy and Instagram. And get some of her yarn because it's gorgeous. So I have some whips to show you. My first whip is in one of my fringe bags. And I cast these on for my mother-in-law. It's almost a hoe. I did the, where's the pattern? They're the Far More mitts by Skein. And I remember when she debuted them on her podcast, I just fell in love with them. And when I was trying to think of something I could knit for my mother-in-law, I thought she would love these. So this is the picture from the pattern. Aren't they pretty? And I had yarn from Barrett Wool Co., which is Susan B. Anderson's company, in almost the exact same colors, almost. I knit my underwing mitts out of them. And Oh my god. I've also started the pumpkin spice mitts I talked about forever ago. And I have so much yarn left over. So I think these 3 skeins of yarn are going to give me 3 pairs of colorwork mitts / mittens. Crazy. So those are the colors. This is more of a like oceany, dark tealy color than it is green. It's not showing up real nicely. It's really gorgeous. I wish you could see it better. Kind of. Wow, it's quite vibrant. It's a jewel tone. It's beautiful. Anyway, here are mine. I followed the pattern exactly. The only difference is I switched the main color and the contrast color. So I have the bluey green as the background and the white as the petals. And this is my favorite yarn for doing color work. Favorite, especially for like accessories. It's not very expensive. This is the, she has 2 different lines. There's the home yarn and the Wisconsin woolen spun. This is home in fingering. It comes in fingering and worsted. This is the fingering. It's really more of a sport weight. So just to give you a heads up. For me, it's great because I have big hands. So I knit the first pair of these in fingering weight and they were really tiny. Then I knit a second pair in the home fingering weight. I also bumped up my needle size and this fits great. And these have held up amazing. I mean, there's like, that's the pill. That's my one little pill. And it's the kind of pill that you can just pick right off. It doesn't ruin anything. It's like a carpet. It just pills a little at the beginning. And then eventually it stops. Great yarn. Anyway, I digress. So I'm making the Farmore mitts for my mother-in-law. I just got to put the ribbing on this thumb and then make the second one. And actually there's one adjustment I made, and that is the little orange bits. I didn't want to carry these across while I was knitting for a couple reasons. One, the floats would have been huge, and I did that actually on the first row down here, and like, I don't know, I can kind of see the yarn behind when it stretches a lot. It's probably fine, but I don't know, I just, whatever. And the other thing is that, what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, I got into such a rhythm knitting this pattern. Like, when I had to switch to the orange from the other 2, it just kind of disrupted my flow. That sounds really like dumb and new agey, but after I did that, I did the first 2, and I was like, it's really annoying. And it's just a tiny little thing. You wouldn't think it would matter. But I was like in just such a rhythm with this that then I had to switch to this other color, and I was like, So what I decided to do was not do that. I knit the rest of them with just the 2 colors, and it flew by. I don't know why, but not having to stop and switch that color, I stayed in the zone, and I just knit these up so fast. And then I went back, and I started at the top, and I worked around in a spiral, and I duplicate stitched these in. And then I just wove the yarn in as I went on the back. So it really doesn't look different on the back. The only place that's different, where it's a slightly long float, I probably should have caught it halfway, but I was lazy, is here. So when I had to go down a row, I didn't catch this. I probably should have woven it through one of these other floats just to make it a little more flat. And I'll probably do that on the other mitt. But I mean, other than that, I think they came out amazing. I love it. I love it. And I'm definitely making myself a pair. Definitely. Yeah. So I did just order 2 more skeins of this in different colors for another pair of mitts I want to make. But like I said, I'm getting 3 pairs of mitts out of these 3 balls. So I will definitely be able to make a couple pairs. If I have any of this white left over, maybe I can make this again. Anyway, doesn't matter. Conversation for another time. So yeah, those are my Farmore mitts by Skein. Really love them. And then I cast something on that is actually in my Make 9. Shocking. So I really wanted to make the Coffee Talk socks by Tracy Millar from Grocery Girls. And so these are the socks. I find if I hold my phone like angled, you can see the detail better. And here you can see the toe. It's kind of a faded toe, and it's like reverse stockinette. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. It's cute, but I don't know if I love it. I might just do the toe plain. I think what I might do is carry the pattern, the texture pattern, further, and then just do the toe in brown. So anyway, I had gotten a sock set last year from Teeny Button Studios, who's one of my favorites, and she has a colorway. I think she does it every fall. It's called Sprinkle Spice Latte, and it's like pumpkin spice latte colors, but with little speckles of hot pink and hot and fluorescent blue and whatever. So this is that. Oh wait, let me show you the skein. So this is Sprinkle Spice Latte sock set. So this is the mini that came with it. It's a very tonal brown. And now this looks really orangey, but in real life it's muted. And then the colors that are bright look muted. The colors that are muted look bright. Like, I don't know what's going on with my lighting today, but whatever. I digress. Isn't this pretty? I love this so much. So I knew that this would be the Coffee Talk sock. It was just meant to be. So here it is. And it's got stockinette in the back. And the texture is flanked by columns of pearl. And it's really pretty. It's a really easy 4-row repeat. And you do get into a rhythm with it. And yeah, I really enjoy it. There is a lot of purling. I don't know, it didn't occur to me when I decided to cast it on that there would be a lot of purling. But I knit continental, so purling really isn't a big deal. And you do get into a rhythm, so it's fine. I also added extra stitch markers. Better to overmark than undermark. So yeah, those are those. And what I was doing is my 40-inch size 1 needle was being used when I cast these on. So what I did is I cast them on 2 9-inch circulars, and I'm now getting this one to be the same length as this one. And now that my 40-inch circular is free, I will transfer these onto that once this is the same length, and I will complete them 2 at a time magic loop. Because that is my new preferred method of doing anything that comes in a pair. That's not color work, because then it gets so tangled, but what are you going to do? So yeah. Look at my little snoring dog. I just squeeze his paws as my little fix. Oh. Anyway, alright, work. So my last whip is the Hedge Witch shawl by Nat Red Wolf. I think that's how you say it. That's how I've heard others say it, so that's how I'm going to say it. They did a cowl. I forget who did the cowl. I didn't do it, but it was. It went from the wolf moon, I believe, to the blood moon. It was a full moon to full moon cowl, which I thought was really cool. I love the moon. I love things witchy and Wiccan and whatever. So I wanted to participate in it, but at the time, I was feeling really stressed and overwhelmed with, let me rephrase that. I was consumed with guilt over casting on projects that were not my whips. And I did not want to cast on another project. I was beating myself up over it, which is why I've come to the place I've come to now where I knit what I want to knit when I want to knit it. If it gets done, it gets done. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the other reason I didn't cast it on is that I didn't think I had the yarn for it. And like I said, I'm trying to avoid buying yarn if I can. So I did not cast it on during that cow. But I've been watching all of the posts on Instagram about it and seeing everyone's gorgeous head witch shawls and seeing it on some of the podcasts, and I love it so much. So the other day I was going through my stash and I came across some yarn that I had forgotten about. And this was gifted to me by my best friend Amber. She had made one of those like Katniss vests, from Hunger Games. It was like all the rage a few years ago or whatever. I don't know. Time is like whatever to me now. Anyway, so this yarn is by Good Karma Farm. They're up in Belfast, Maine. The colorway is called Kelp, and it is 60% wool, 40% alpaca, and this is it. It's a variegated, like, steel blue and brown. It's absolutely gorgeous. So here's a good representation of the color. Yeah, don't look up here, right here. It's gorgeous, and it is insanely soft and insanely bouncy. It's a worsted weight, if I didn't already say that. Oh my god, I love it. And I have enough of it for the main color of the shawl. The shawl has two colors. There's a contrast color. I'm going to pull up the picture before I show you mine. And there's like some garter stitch bands on the bottom that are in the contrast color. And I think, well, hold on. So that's the hedge witch. And I'll find that other picture I like. This one. Oh my god, you're so loud. Hey. So I don't have a contrast color, and I don't have enough yarn of the main color to just make it a single color shawl, which I kind of wish I could do. So I was thinking that the one she did in the pictures is like brown with gray, and so that's, mine's kind of brown. And I thought about doing gray, and I want to try to avoid buying yarn, but I really just don't have the right yarn. This looks stupid now. So then I was thinking, I actually have, this is my Campside Cardi by Alicia Plummer that I love. And this is done in Less Traveled Yarn in the colorway Opera Cake. I have a couple skeins left over of that. It is DK, and it's superwash merino, so it's not the same at all. But the colors actually look really nice together. I don't know if you can tell. You can see it in my sweater. It's speckled with these browns. This particular skein is just where it is. It's not showing that, but you can see that, it looks, I think it looks nice together. So I was thinking I could do that. The issue is, though, is that what do I do? Do I hold this double, or will 2 strands of DK be too thick? This is pretty thick yarn. It looks like it could be bulky, but it's not. It's just really fluffy. When you pull it tight, it's clearly worsted. But I don't know. The other thing I was thinking is that if I'm going to buy it, I want it to have the same, as close to the same fiber content. So I was looking at maybe purchasing a couple skeins. I only need 2 skeins of, depending on it. I mean, I could, if it's got over 200 yards in it, probably won't. But if it did, I could get away with 1 skein. But I don't need much. So I was looking at maybe getting some of the this is what happens when you're only 2 years away from turning 40. You start forgetting things. The Barocco, I believe it's Barocco Ultra Alpaca, is, I think it's 50-50 alpaca wool. And I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. And it's a mix. And they have like a medium gray. I don't want to do too dark of a gray. I think a medium gray would be nice. And I think they're on at Webs right now, yarn.com, for like $11 a ball, maybe less. So that's not too bad. So I might get that. We'll see. Like I said, I'd like to get this. Maybe I didn't say this. Maybe I said it in the last 3 times I tried to record this podcast. I'd like to get this done sooner rather than later because I want to enjoy it in the cold weather. It is a really big, really heavy, not heavy because it's actually kind of light, but it's worsted weight. You know, it's a big, cozy winter shawl. And I find that time is flying by these days, and the next thing you know, it's going to be spring, and I really want to wear this shawl. I am in southern New Hampshire. It gets cold. I need as many warm, woolly things when I go outside and walk the doggy as possible. So, here's my hedge witch. I love it. The texture is so cute. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if it's as intuitive as people have said. When you get you're going across, and when you get here, the texture pattern, like every other row, you have a different stitch count at the end of the repeats, and you do something different. I'm sure as I continue on with this shawl, I will remember what those things are. Like, do I purl 2? Do I pass one over this one? I don't know. So I still have to refer to the directions more often than I'd like. A lot of people were saying that it's meditative and intuitive, and I'm like, what are you people talking about? I keep getting ended up with like 1-2 stitches, and I don't know what to do with them. Whatever. Anyway. I love it anyway. Can't wait to finish it. So, then I have some future knitting. So, I know I said I'm going to knit what I want to knit when I want to knit it. However, I don't want to cast these sweaters on until I finish my shawl, because these are fingering weight sweaters that I could, actually one's DK, but it's pretty thin, that I can wear through the spring, into the summer, summer nights, into the fall. I mean, it's practically year-round. So I want to get the shawl done so I can actually take advantage of wearing it before I cast these on. So the first is, I got well over a year ago, maybe it was last year, I don't know. I don't even know. I think it was a year ago. I bought a kit from Wool & Boone to do the Sunset Highway by Caitlin Hunter. And I was really excited about it. I wish I had a picture of the kit, what it looked like on my computer screen, because the colors look pretty vibrant to me. And then I got it, and I caked it all up, and I cast it on, and I found that the colors, so, okay, here's the main color. I'm not going to pull out every single skein, that doesn't matter. So this is the main color. This is Wool & Boone Dancing at a Funeral. And then these are 2 of the contrast colors. The other one's upstairs. I probably should have brought it down, but it doesn't really matter. So these are two of the contrast colors. The other contrast color is a very pale robin's egg blue with speckles. When you put them together in the cake like this, you can tell the difference. However, I found when I was doing the color work in the yolk that there were parts where I couldn't tell the difference because this one's like a lot of gray. This one has some variegated bits where it's like, or tonal, where it's practically white, and then other parts are like bright, limey green, yellow color. And so a lot of those lighter colors were mixing, and then the blue also had these lighter colors in its tonal base. There was just not enough contrast. It just looked like a blob. And I was not loving it. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I could just swap one of the colors with the main color because that would have more contrast, but then it made no sense because then I wouldn't have enough yarn to do the body, whatever, you know what I'm saying. It wasn't working for me. So I sadly put all these cakes in a bag and threw them in a corner and pretended that that sweater never existed, and that was sad. Fast forward to a couple days ago, I was going to cast on this yarn for a show. Oh, I forgot. I don't know if I'm doing a test knit, and I was going to do it in this yarn that I'm going to show you in a second, but then I realized after I caked it up, there wasn't enough yardage. This test knit needs like 460 plus yards, and this only had 400. So it wasn't going to work. And then I threw it in my little area of all the caked yarn that is not being used. It's a land of sadness. And I saw it with some of these colors, and I was like, oh, wait a second. So this is Ba Yarns La Jolla in the May 2017 colorway. I believe the La Jolla line is all monthly, exclusive monthly colorways. So if you didn't get it in May 2017, you're not getting it. Sorry. I also have one, I think it was January 2018, that's like blues and browns, and it's gorgeous. Anyway, I digress. So now my color work is going to be this. And just so you know, these colors are crazy vibrant, and they're being like blown out and muted and looking really, really weird on my screen. I hope that I can fix that in editing, but you'll just have to check out my Instagram and project pages on Ravelry, excuse me, to see better representations of these colors. That's a little better. So that'll be my color work, and then again the main body will stay the same. And in the main body color, there's a lot of speckles that are like similar pinks and reddish colors to this one. So I think that it will actually tie in quite nicely. So I'm very excited about finally making a Sunset Highway. And even though I don't normally like pullovers, I think this one's a little oversized and I might like it. My other future knitting project is I got this yarn from my mother-in-law for Christmas, and I had intended to make a second beekeeper cardigan, which is done by Olive Knits, but I started it, and this yarn is much finer than the yarn I used, so I wasn't loving the way it was coming out, so I ripped it out, and I found something else. Anyway, this is Fiber Company Acadia. Too many tags all over the place. And the colorway is Rose Bay, and it's like a raspberry wine color, and it's silk, alpaca, and merino blend. And I like that the little bits of silk, there's little silk nubs. It makes it almost like a tweedy effect. You can see one there, so up here, which is cute. So I did a ton of digging on Ravelry and found a project that would be perfect. So the pattern I'm going to make with that yarn is the Chicot Sweater by Bristol Ivy. And let me just pull up a picture for you, because I haven't actually purchased the pattern yet. Where is it? There it is. And it's a 3/4 length sleeve, textured, A-lined, flowy thing, flared. It's knit in pieces and seamed, which I actually haven't done before. Everything I've knit has been yokes and raglans. So this is the Sashiko. And there's another picture of it. I gotta like hold it sideways. Can you see that? Maybe I'll try to put a picture in. Here's a good of the side view. It's got like that split hem. It's really pretty. And the fiber company Acadia is one of the suggested yarns for it. So that makes me happy. No, that's not true. I was going to say I don't think I've ever knit with a suggested yarn, but that's actually not true. I knit my beekeeper with the suggested yarn, and I knit my throwback sweater with the suggested yarn. But I think that's it. And then lastly, I wanted to show you something I got. It's the last thing. This was something I won from a knit along. I never win anything. So the Fox and the Sheep, Nina from Fox and the Sheep, did a knit along with the underwing mitts, and I entered both pairs of my underwing mitts, and I won. So she pulled my name, and I got a prize, and I couldn't believe it. It was whatever. And I had just seen her last podcast at the time, where she showed what the prizes were, and so when she told me I won, I knew exactly what it was. So this is a shawl pin. If you don't know, Nina from Fox and the Sheep, she's originally, she's German, but she lives in Sweden. I think she has sheep, and she makes beautiful stuff, both with fiber and wood. She does a lot of wood carving. And she has gorgeous like nosta pines for hand winding yarn. And anyway, she made this shawl pin. It came on this wool, which I think is cool. And in my head, this came from her sheep. It smells good. So this is a shawl pin, and she hand carved this. And like this bit, I believe, was like a little notch in the wood that was already there. It was natural, and she just like played into it. And I've seen some of her videos on how she does her wood carvings, and she likes to use the natural elements of the wood to kind of inform the design. Like she did one with an owl, a nosta pine with an owl, and there was like a big knot in the wood, and she like incorporated that into the design. It's really cool. So she incorporated this little notch into the design and hand carved this and painted it. It's gorgeous. And then, so it would just go on your shawl. Pretend I have a big shawl wrapped around. You just kind of push the fabric through and then just do this. And if I had actually done it like that, it would hold it together, but this isn't a shawl, so I'm not going to do that. But I also thought that the orange on here was a really nice contrast to my hedge witch. I actually considered doing an orange contrast color, but I thought that might be too much. I wanted to keep it a little bit more neutral. But anyway, I thought orange would be a gorgeous contrast, so I think that I'll use this shawl pin on my hedge witch, definitely, because they just complement each other so well. And this is a huge shawl that'll be wrapped around. It's perfect for a shawl pin. So that is the gorgeous thing I won from Nina of Fox and the Sheep. Thank you so much, Nina. I am honored to have this. So, I lied. There's one more thing. No, there's two more things. Well, whatever. Fiber Share signups just ended, and matching is going on. So I am really excited to do Fiber Share. I did it last year. I had an interesting experience because the person who I was supposed to be receiving from had actually decided not to do it anymore, and there was some miscommunication, and I ended up having to get a package from the Fiber Share girls themselves instead of a partner. But they sent me a beautiful package with gorgeous yarn. Actually, the Earthshine shawl or cowl thing I was talking about and the Tweedy yarn is yarn I got from them. And the person I sent to was a nice woman from Germany, and we had some great conversation, and I think I sent her a pretty good package. So it was fun. So I'm excited to do it again this year. I hope I get a better match this year. I also decided I really enjoyed doing international last time. I love connecting with people from other countries and other cultures very much, and that was fun. But the shipping cost to send the package that I sent, which was quite heavy because I put like lots of candy and stuff in it, it was like $60 to ship that to Germany. Regular, plain old mail, nothing fancy. I actually went to UPS first, and they were like, yeah, that's going to be like $200. And I was like, no. So I went to the post office. It was $63 to ship yarn to Germany. So, in an effort to not spend ridiculous amounts of money on knitting-related things, not just yarn, I decided to only do the continental US this time. So I look forward to getting my match, and yeah, follow FiberShare on Instagram and join in on the fun. I love it. So cool. And that's it. The last thing I was going to say is that I'll see you in a month, and when I do, we will have a new puppy. So we are getting a new puppy. Her name is probably going to be Pearl with a U, because we're knitters. It's not officially her name, but it's 95% going to be her name. And she is Indy's 100% biological sister. They have the same parents, just a different litter. And I am so excited to go get her. So I'm flying out on Valentine's Day to Pittsburgh. I'm going to hang out with my mom there. And then we're going to drive out. It's like a 6-hour drive from her house to get the puppy. And then I'm going to fly home with the puppy, which is going to be interesting. I'm not the greatest flyer, and I've never flown with an animal. So, although I do find that when I fly with the kids, having to be like the adult and the person in charge or responsible makes me focus less on my own fears. So I think that maybe this will be the same. I hope. It's a short flight, so hopefully she's okay. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. If you want to talk about flying with puppies, ping me on Instagram or leave a message below. Anyway, I want to show you a picture of her. So this was 4 weeks old. She's like 6 weeks old now. 6 weeks? 7 weeks? I don't know. But this is 4 weeks old. How cute is she? She's just a little nugget. Just like Indy. Oh my god, just like Indy. Their markings are a little different. He's got a lot more brown on his back, and his brown on his face is closer together. But the shape of her body is just all roly-poly, round, and stocky like Indy. Indy's a big cavalier. He's sleeping, so I don't want to bother him again. I already bothered him once to get on the podcast on a previous recording that got lost. So if you want to see more of Indy and his sister Pearl, you can follow me on Instagram, The Knitting Unicorn, which I'll put down here. Also, Indy has his own Instagram, which will soon be renamed. Right now, it's Indy the Cav. I'll put that down here too, because there's also underscores. I think I'm going to change it to Indy and Pearl. We'll see if that's available. But either way, feel free to go visit him on Instagram for the latest and greatest and most fun puppy shenanigans. So, I think that's it. I'll see you guys in a month, and have a good one. If you're up here in the north, stay warm.